Colossians 1 and verse number 23 again today. If ye continue in the faith, grounded and settled, and be not moved away from the hope of the gospel. If ye continue in the faith, grounded and settled. Now we dealt with on yesterday, in fact the past several days, this matter of continuation. And if the believer continues in these things, and that's the goal of the prayer of Paul for the believers in both the book of Ephesians and also in the book of Colossians. The end result of this matter of continuance, if you continue in the faith, the goal of the matter of continuance will be the believer being strengthened with all might according to his glorious power. I find that in Colossians 1 and verse number 11. So the purpose of God is for the believer to be strengthened, to not be a child blown about by every wind of doctrine, but to be rooted and settled, grounded in the faith. And I pointed out yesterday as we were going off the air that the goal, the objective of our pulpit ministry as Bible believers is the strengthening and the edifying of the saints. Now I'm afraid that some of the modern emerging church, the mega church movement, the interdenominational, and interdenominationalism is different from non-denominationalism. In non-denominationalism, I have over the years held a few meetings in non-denominational churches. Those churches by and large are Baptistic, and in their faith I tease sometimes to say these folk are Baptist and don't know it. Non-denominationalism. Interdenominationalism, on the other hand, is an outworking of ecumenicism, where we mingle the denominations together and we pull them together. That is much of the outworking of the modern megachurch movement. And I'm afraid that many of these megachurches and the emerging church is simply there not to edify the saints or build up the believers, but after listening to their pulpit ministry, it's to build a religious enterprise. It is a religious business, by and large. This becomes obvious when listening to their pulpit work and observing their ministerial practice. It is not the building up of the saints, the edifying of the body, the strengthening of believers, but rather it is the building of a religious enterprise. The goal of our preaching by radio, in my revival meetings and my Bible conferences, the goal of pastors for whom I preach and that are sympathetic with the work of the Bright Spot Hour and believe in what we're trying to do, the goal of their ministry is the same, and that is the grounding of the saints. And I'd much rather the believers that I preach to, be grounded and settled in the faith than for those believers to have a system of rules and regulations that they follow. Those that become legalists that follow rules and regulations only are no more deep than those rules and regulations. Whereas if the believers are grounded and settled, they'll not soon be moved from that. I've had rules and regulations in my own life that I no longer practice. I began to see the futility of some of the things that I preached 35 years ago, and the futility of being a moralist and a legalist. And there are many of those things that I no longer practice. But I believe, I hope that I am certainly much more grounded and settled in the faith today with less rules and regulations than I was then, with more rules and regulations but less grounding and settling. So whenever the Bible, Paul refers to this matter of being grounded and settled, what am I to understand from this? The believer is to be grounded and settled in the faith. Well, the word grounded is the word themilo. It's used 6 times in the New Testament. One of those times here in our text, Colossians 1 and verse number 23. continue in the faith, grounded and settled. Now this is interesting to observe how the King James translators, depending on the context, translated this Greek word themelo. In Matthew 7:25, for it was founded upon a rock. There's our word, founded. In Luke 6:48, for it was founded upon a rock. Same thing, Luke 6:48. Ephesians 3:17, being rooted and grounded in love. In Colossians 1:23, continue in the faith, grounded and settled. In Hebrews 1 and verse number 10, hast laid the foundation of the earth. There's our word, themelo, the foundation of the earth. And in 1 Peter 5 verse number 10, establish, strengthen, settle. And there's our word, settle you. So the born-again believer that is grounded is a born-again believer that has been founded, he has been grounded, he's had the foundation laid, and he has become established. He is established in what he believes. Now, if the born-again child of God becomes established in what he believes and understands from the Bible, how the Bible reads, and there are a lot of things that I believe 30 years ago, 35 years ago, that I don't necessarily believe now. And the reason I don't believe those things now is I have continued reading the Bible and rereading the Bible, the King James Bible now, and reading it and reading it again and reading it again and reading it again. The New Testament I've read through nearly 100 times. And I've discovered from reading and rereading and rereading and rereading that there are some things that I believe 35 years ago that I can't find in the Bible. And there's a battery of things that I was totally ignorant of that I have now found in my Bible reading, that I see was in the Scriptures that I never knew was in there. A lot of things I didn't know was in the Bible till I began reading the Bible systematically for myself. And it is the reading and the reading and the reading and the reading of the Scriptures that provides a foundation for the born-again believer. It allows the foundation to be founded, the believer to be founded, to be grounded, to be established. And when you and I believe the Bible, and I believe the King James Bible to be a perfect document, I understand all the arguments. I studied Greek in college. I probably use as much Greek in my study as the average preacher in America. But I believe without any hesitation that the King James text, the text of the King James Bible, is without any hesitancy a perfect document. And I have the modern translations. I have the modern translations here in my studio. I don't need the modern translations. I put no confidence in the modern translations. In fact, the only time I refer to the modern translations is to see how those that follow the critical apparatus mess up the King James text. I believe the King James Bible corrects all the modern translations. They don't correct it, it corrects them. The King James text has been here for 408 years, and it is the lion of the books. And after a man has read and read and read, or a woman has read and read and read the King James Bible, they become established. If somebody comes along and they begin to try to unsettle or mess up their foundation, and they're so rooted in what they read in the text of the King James Bible that all of these young fellows with better ideas and televangelists with better ideas, they just remain unfazed. I mean, they're not moved by that at all, because they are established. Their roots go down real deep, and they are established in the faith. So when he says grounded, that's what Paul is making reference to. My time is just completely gone. The Lord willing, we'll be back again on tomorrow.
Hour at Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina 29602. This is Mark Ferguson saying be by your radio tomorrow for the